Hi everyone, welcome back to another academic video. This one is all about access to your published journal paper. And in particular, if colleagues ask to get your paper, do you send it freely or are you more limited about how you share your work? So hi, if you're new, my name is Caroline. I'm a UK-based physics academic. And one of the questions that came up in the comments, and I love the comments, so please do keep them coming in, but one of the questions was about journal paper sharing. And in particular, if you've published a journal paper, so maybe you've written up your research and it's been accepted by the journal and it's now in press with that journal, if your colleagues at other universities then want to have copies of that paper, are you as the author able just to freely send them? Should you post your article now on some kind of sharing website platform for people to see? What do you do about sharing your research articles? So I guess the first thing to check is to look at what type of journal or platform you've actually published your work. So, there are typically journals that are open access, and that's where you as the author of the university are paying to have your article in that journal. Now, it still might need to go through a peer review process, but the act of the university paying then for that article to be within that journal means that then other people can access it free of charge. So then anybody can then just log on and say, I want to read that paper, and they can see it without incurring any cost. Quite often, as academics, we actually publish in journals that are behind a paywall. So in this instance, I've written up my piece of work, I've sent it off. Again, most likely it's going to have some kind of form of peer review. If it gets accepted by the journal then take on the cost for publishing that piece of work. Now, that means that people who then want to read it or access it or see that research article need to have membership or a subscription to that particular publication. And so most universities will have an awful lot of journal publications that they are subscribed to. And so as an academic here at the university, there's a long list then of journal papers that I can now just go to access, to see the articles, because my university has paid for us to have a university subscription. It does mean, though, that if I wanted to share that article freely with somebody who didn't have a subscription, it gets a bit more complicated. And of course, you may not have chosen to put your work into an open journal or a journal that's actually behind some kind of paywall. Maybe you decided to use a central depository or filing system instead. Archive is quite a common one that people use, at least here in the UK. And this is where you can upload your paper, and then anybody who belongs to that system archive can then see your paper. And actually, in some cases, it's peer reviewed, and in some cases, it isn't peer reviewed. So the actual landscape of journals and articles and publications, is not all the same. Journals are different, they have different rules, different requirements, and fundamentally their access to be able to see those research papers will be different. Now, in most cases then, if a colleague at another university asks to see my work, I will just send them the link to that particular journal paper. So rather than sending them the actual paper itself in PDF form, I'll just say, oh yes, I published it in this journal, and just send them the link, or I'll use the code, the DOI code, so they can then quickly access the paper. Now that works great as long as they've got either access to the journal or that the article isn't in a journal that's behind some kind of paywall and is in an open access journal. It gets more complicated if you want to send your research to somebody, I guess, who isn't able to access those journals or those papers because they aren't a subscribed member to the publication. And in that case, it's worthwhile checking the regulations and the rules of the particular journal that you've published in. Quite a few of them will say that they have the rights to that work for a certain period of time, 1, 2, 3 years. And therefore you need to be cautious, or at least careful, about how you're freely handing out that research paper to others. And it's also worthwhile checking what your university does centrally as well. Our university will often collate papers, and we might not be able to put them out in the published form that they're published in, but sometimes you can share an earlier draft of research with somebody before it's gone through that final typesetting and publication stage. But journals are really supportive of trying to encourage us to share our research. So most journals are going to have at least some kind of guidance on their pages as to what you can and can't do. I've got my laptop here and I'm just having a look at one of the journals that I frequently publish in. And so here it says that, can I share my article at a conference? Yes, it says here you could always share your research in forms as a presentation or a poster at a conference. It then says, can I share it within classroom and teaching purposes? So there's quite a long list here of things that you can share. And it went, yeah, you can share it in that location too. You can share it with colleagues via private communication and email. You can link to it apparently on your blog or website. You can have it on your internal repository at your university. So the journals are encouraging and they want us to share our research, but it's always worthwhile just checking the particular journal's webpage just to make sure that the way you want to share it or the way you want to send it or publicise it is within the journal's terms and conditions and their rules, if you like. And of course, do get creative with how you share those journals too. I should probably do more of it myself when I publish something. We should probably promote it more on our social media, on Twitter in particular. Obviously, we use our research at conferences all the time. I try to bring my research into kind of public talks and evening talks. Between my group and other groups at other universities, we try to do colloquia. So I'll actually take my research results and take them to another university. And it's a great place as well for students, like PhD students, to share their research results through that kind of university colloquia scheme. So yeah, there is no quick and hard and fast rule about sharing or not sharing in particular circumstances. All I'd say is look at your journal, look at the article, look at what you signed up to when you put that journal in and the terms and the conditions. And then as long as you're working within those terms and conditions, you are at liberty then to be able to share your research. And the university land and being a scholar and academic, it's that combination of our ideas together that can help sometimes jump us forward in that understanding to get over the next hurdle. It's a balance, because sometimes you might be racing to publish a result because that maybe there's another team working on it somewhere else in the world and you want to be the first one out with that piece of research. But more often than not, either collaborative working or indeed some kind of friendly competitive working can help push our research forwards. But yeah, the collaborative versus competitive, that I will save for another day. So let me know in the comments, do you prefer to publish in the open access journals, or are you happy to go to journals that you have to pay to be able to access those materials? Let me know. As always, I'll be back next week, so next Monday with another academic video, but stay safe, keep looking after yourselves, and I'll see you in a week's time. Bye.